Thanks, Tricia. Thank you, Pete. Pete, whatever it was. You have to let him know.
Yeah. Couple more minutes.
All right, it's time to start our Newark City Council meeting. Janine, will you please call a roll?
Mr. Fennell?
Here.
Ms. Hall? Here. Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Labutus?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Here.
Mr. Marmy?
Present.
Mr. Rath?
Here.
Mr. Barker?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Ms. Hattiger?
Okay, we have 9 present. Let's stand for prayer. Invocation by Mr. Labutus.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we come to you in prayer this evening. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the day you've given us to serve you, and we thank you for this season. As we come to Christmas, that you've given us the ultimate hope, the ultimate gift for all of us. As asked you to be with us this evening, as we discuss matters of the city, and as we do so, help us to keep your vision for our city in mind. These things I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance by Jackson Marsala, 5th grader from McJeffrey Elementary.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is caucus, not for council to discuss things. We have anything for caucus? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to excuse Ms. Hollinger and also I think Mr. Ellington.
Okay. Second by Mr. Blake. I think we need to put in Rule 11 tonight for caucus. Get a vote, yeah.
On that.
Oh, yeah, we need a vote on the excuse of. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Next, caucus, need to consider change in Rule 11. Okay. Mr. Marmy, you want to discuss that? Sure. Mr. Blake, you second. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Janine, will you roll?
Council Rule 11, under miscellaneous business, council may after debate permit the introduction of legislation classified as emergency by a 3/4 vote. If a member introduces legislation and did not meet the time criteria to be numbered and placed on the agenda, then the clerk will assign it a number at the meeting the legislation was introduced. The president of council will refer the legislation to the appropriate committee. By agreement of the minority and majority leader of council, legislation may bypass committee review as long as it has been presented to the clerk in conformity with the timetable established by Article 4.02C of the city charter and is reflected on the agenda that the majority and minority leaders have agreed that the committee review is not necessary. In the event that all members of council are from the same political party and there is an absence of a minority leader, then by agreement of the president of council and the majority leader of council, legislation may bypass committee review as long as it has been presented to the clerk in conformity with the timetable established by Article 4.02C of the city charter, and it is reflected on the agenda that the president of council and the majority leader have agreed that committee review is not necessary.
Do I have
Make a motion.
motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Blake? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Next up, we'll go to 21-42. Janine, would you like to read that, please? Or 2141, sorry.
Ordinance number 21-41 by Mr. Rath, an ordinance consenting to the annexation of certain territories generally described as being approximately 0.948 acres more or less located at 137 North Vernon Avenue in Newton Township to the city of Newark, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
President,
Yes, Mr. Rath.
make a motion to adopt 21-41.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Marmy. We have any discussion? All in favor? Call a roll. Okay.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Yes. Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattinger, Mr. Labutus,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake,
Yes.
Okay, that passes 9-0. Next on the agenda, we have 21-42.
This one you don't have to do because that one passed. This one is-
Okay.
Point of order.
2142, since 2141 passed, 2142 is not necessary.
Does 21-42 still need to be read and then die for lack of motion?
Yes, we usually do.
Still needs to be read.
Okay.
Directing my question to the law director.
If that's what the
Or point of
normal
order.
procedure is, then I would say purely normal procedure.
Ordinance number 21-42 by Mr. Rath, an ordinance objecting to the annexation of certain territory generally described as being 0.948 acres more or less located at 137 North Vernon Avenue in Newton Township to the city of Newark, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
That just dies. Next, we have 21-85.
Resolution number 21-85 by Mr. Rath, a resolution adopting a statement indicating what services, if any, the city of Newark, Ohio provides for approximately 0.948 acres more or less located at 137 North Vernon Avenue in Newton Township, a territory proposed for expedited to annexation and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 21-85.
Second.
motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Murray.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Hattinger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Passes 9-0. Yeah. Next one is 21-86.
Resolution number 21-86 by Mr. Rath, a resolution regarding a buffer zone for the annexation of approximately 0.948 acres, more or less located at 137 North Vernon Avenue in Newton Township, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 21-86.
Second.
motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Marmy. Any discussion? Discussion? Jean, call the roll, please.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattinger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
That passes 9-0. All right, next on the agenda, we have minutes of December 6th, meeting 2021. We have do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Motion by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Barker. All in favor?
Aye.
I was getting there. All right, next we have an appointments, no appointments, reports of standing committees, finance, service rules, and personnel will be received and filed. Reports from city officials, city auditor Ryan T. Bob operating report for the period ending November 30th, 2021. Tax administration and Administrator Brenda Cooper, income tax revenue reports for the period ending November 30th, 2020-21 will be received and filed. Communication, Roger Loomis, Water Administration, properties being sent to lien for past due water, sewer, and stormwater bills in the amount of $4,795.57. David Froelich, Edwards Park School Board. That'll be received and filed. Next on the agenda, we have two opportunities for citizen comments. This is the first opportunity. If you'd like to speak at this time, will you please raise your hand? So you can see. And I'll need your name and address for the record. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Joe Kennedy, 867 Shelbourne Place, Newark. I want to take this opportunity to thank two members of the council who are leaving from their last meeting tonight, Sean and Jeremy Blake. Particularly wanted to shed some light on Jeremy Blake because he has shown what a true citizen should be. One who was really involved in his community and started out getting involved in this community literally from the day he graduated from high school. He's one of the youngest presidents of the Newark School Board we've ever had, probably the youngest, correct? Okay, and that's in his 20s. He's been involved as a city councilman, and I've been a student of how cities operate for all my career. And to see the way he jumped into the poorest section of the city and started developing leadership to start the South End Association, to get those people to know that they had a voice, that they could do something. And he led the way for them. He did that on the school board. He did it on city council. And he's been an outstanding example of a citizen really getting involved with nothing to gain for himself, but to do something for the people that he knows and loves and lives with. And I think we need to think a lot about what he has done and what he has stood for and continues to stand for. And as one who's always been looking around to see who's the new leadership coming up the line, he's one of the finest I've seen in my 40 years in this community. Congratulations and the very best to you, Jeremy.
Rochelle Bowman Smith, 237 Violet Court. First of all, I want to say that I'm really going to miss you, Jeremy, and Sean quite a bit. You've all accomplished so much in the city. And I can't imagine how anyone can follow in your footsteps to the degree that you've got. Thank you for everything, and I hope to continue seeing you a lot. Last time I was here, I spoke up on a number of issues, and I know the city likes that. And the other, I think it was Sunday, I was listening to NPR, Austin's stations, and I'd like to read some facts from there. This was called Simple Fentanyl Strips Could Save Lives as Opioid Deaths Hit Record Highs. With COVID-19 stealing, and it's by Scott Tong and Serena McCannon of it's on fentanyl strips usage in Arlington, Virginia. With COVID-19 stealing headlines, opioid overdoses have fallen out of the spotlight in the last few years. But this figure bears reporting. 100,000 people have died of drug overdoses in the US this year, a record high. Health officials point to fentanyl, a powerful synthetic opiate for many of them. For drug dealers, fentanyl can be used as an inexpensive way to boost potency and stretch out the supply. For users, it's a nightmare. Now, some public health workers are trying to get a new way to test for fentanyl on state lives. Emily Seekvillen, I'm not sure the pronunciation of her name, is among those. She's the opiates program manager for Arlington County, Virginia, which has seen nearly 90 overdoses this year. The county introduced fentanyl strips in August. The strips, which are placed in a mixture of water and a tiny amount of the drug, whatever the substance might be, give results in about 60 seconds, she says. The strip then indicates whether fentanyl is detected in the substance. From 2015 into 2016, Arlington County, similar to many cities across the US, started to see an increase in opioid-related incidents, she says. There was a period of hope around 2018 when the county saw a dip in cases, Sweetland says, but the pandemic unfortunately altered that course. For some comparison's sake, in 2018, when we started to see that decrease, we had 11 fatal overdoses. In 2019, it went down to 6. But then in 2020, it went up to 20. And so far this year, we're already at 26 fatal overdoses with another 62 non-fatal, she says. She says these test strips are another shot at life for someone. It's why efforts were made to launch the program at the end of the summer. So far, the county has dispensed over 660 test strips, she says, and they've been able to get the word out in multiple ways. First, the behavioral health division in Arlington County spreads the message to the clients that they support. Second, Sweetland says that the team hands out test strips to people leaving jail who have used opioids before. The test strips are heavily advertised through email blasts to the community. And finally, she says test strips are mailed to anyone who could personally use them or share them with friends and family. Some studies in places like Baltimore and San Francisco suggest people who utilize test strips tend to modify their behavior in some way, she says. In Arlington, the county has seen some folks come back for more strips after using to test drugs, finding fentanyl contamination and throwing out the substance. However, fentanyl test strips are not without controversy, similar to on-site injection spaces and needle exchanges. Critics claim handing out those strips encourage people to keep using drugs. While Spieland says she understands the criticism, she strongly disagrees. People will use substances anyway, she says, and providing them with a test strip could save their lives. We have 26 Arlingtonians who died this year, and with these test strips, they may have not died, and they may have been able to access treatment, she says. And we can't help anyone who isn't alive. These strips could pave the way for an individual to seek treatment or medical assistance to manage their disease, she says. There are several ways fentanyl is getting into substances. Some individuals lace drugs with fentanyl to make the drug stronger, while other substances are cross-contaminated with fentanyl unknowingly, she says. Spieland says that her team has been warning the community of all the ways fentanyl can end up in opioids, heroin, press pills, counterfeit pain medications, and other illicit substances, and reminding them to use their strips first. For any city or county looking to implement test strips, Spieland says, do it. It can save lives, she says. I've seen in the number of strips passed out in a short time in Arlington County alone. A lot of people are getting strips or coming back and asking for more. And this is an opportunity for us to keep folks alive so they can access treatment when they are ready. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else in this section?
Bill Cost, 1639 Krebs Court. I guess I'm the one that has the honor to also thank Dee for her service. Dee came along and we became good friends. And what I admired about Dee is she did things from the heart. She did things with common sense. She did it in a pleasant manner. She's just a very easy person to like. She never made a vote that was based on re-election. She never made a vote based on partisanship. She made her votes based on what she thought was right, and she stuck to it, and I admire that. So I'd also like to thank you, Jeremy. I'd like to thank you as well. And Sean, I enjoyed serving with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, no ordinance on the second reading. There are none this meeting. Next, we have ordinance on the first reading, 21-35.
Ordinance number 21-35A by Mr. Labutus and Mr. Marmy, an ordinance amending the position classification, pay range, and department authorization tables of the City of Newark Department of Treasurer, Division of Income Tax by creating the classifications of Assistant Treasurer and Tax Office Manager, abolishing the classifications of Assistant Tax Administrator and Revenue Clerk 1, and setting the compensation therefore.
Mr. President,
Mr. Lewis.
I'd like to waive the 2-day rule on 21-35A.
Second.
So, motion to waive the 2-day reading by Mr. Labutus, second by Mr. Marmy.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Hattinger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Okay, 2-day reading rules waived.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt 21-35A.
Got a motion by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Marmy to adopt.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattinger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Motion has been passed. 0. Next, we have ordinance on the first reading, 21-38.
Ordinance number 21-38 by Mr. Marmy, an ordinance to make an appropriation for the expenditures of the City of Newark, Ohio during the year ending December 31st, 2022.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy.
make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on ordinance 21-38.
Got a motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Jean, like to call the roll?
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattinger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
2-day reading rule has been passed. Do we have a motion?
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt ordinance 21-38.
Second. Got a motion to adopt 21-38 by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang.
Mr. President,
Yes.
comment, please.
Sure.
The budget, appreciate all the hard work from the auditor's office and also the administration and all the department heads on bringing all these budgets together. Just so everyone knows, we need to expedite these and waive the 2-day reading rule in order to make sure that the city can function on January 1st. So they have to be passed. It's our last meeting of the year. So that is why they're being expedited. And I think that it's a very solid budget. It'll be good for January 1, then we need to be making some changes probably shortly thereafter, just like any budget. So I want to thank everybody for the work on it.
Any other comments?
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattinger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have ordinance on the first reading, 21-39.
Ordinance number 21-39 by Mr. Marmy, an ordinance to make an appropriation for the expenditures of the City of Newark, Ohio during the year ending December 31st, 2022.
Mr. President,
Mr.
make a
Marmy.
motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on ordinance 21-39.
Got a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lane.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
2-day reading rule has been waived. Do we have a motion?
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt ordinance 21-39.
Second.
So we've got a motion by Mr. Marmy to adopt, second by Mr. Lane. Do we have any discussion?
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
21-39 has passed 9-0. And the last reading on the first ordinance is 21-40.
Ordinance number 21-40 by Mr. Marmy, an ordinance to make an appropriation for the expenditures of the city of Newark, Ohio during the year ending December 31st, 2022.
Mr. President, make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on ordinance 21-40.
Second.
It's been a motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lane to waive the 2-day reading rule. Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
That's passed 9-0.
Mr. President,
Wait, yeah.
make a motion to adopt ordinance 21-40.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lane.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
21-40 passes 9-0. Next on the agenda is the resolutions of the second reading, 21-74.
Resolution number 21-74 by Mr. Marmy and Mr. Barker, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit applications to the Department of Homeland Security for fiscal year 2021 Fire Act grant programs and supportive training programs, equipment purchases, funding for personnel, fire prevention, and fire safety programs throughout the city.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy,
make a motion to adopt resolution 21-74.
Second.
motion by Mr. Marmy to adopt, second by Mr. Barker. Please call the roll.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
21 resolution on second reading, 21-74 has passed 9-0. Next, we have 21-75.
Resolution number 21-75 by Mr. Rath and Mr. Barker, a resolution authorizing all actions necessary to effect a governmental natural gas aggregation program with opt-out provisions pursuant to section 4929.26 of the Ohio Revised Code, directing the Licking County Board of Elections to submit a ballot question to the electors.
We have a motion for 21
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 21-75.
motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Barker.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
I'm going to abstain from this.
Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
So that passes 8-0 with one extension. Next on the resolution, the second reading is 21-76.
Resolution number 21-76 by Mr. Rath and Mr. Barker, a resolution authorizing all actions necessary to effect a governmental electricity aggregation program with opt-out provisions pursuant to section 4928.20 of the Ohio Revised Code, directing the Licking County Board of Elections to submit a ballot question to the electors.
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 21-76.
Second.
got a motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Barker. Please call the roll.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Can I comment, please?
Sure, sure.
The previous 21-75 and 21-76, whether you believe in the aggregation of the program or not, I'm a firm believer that, the voters should decide. This is not saying that anyone on council necessarily is supporting it. It's just that we support that it goes on to the ballot and allows the electorate to make the decision. So anytime that comes forward, as long as it's not going to create a huge expenditure on the behalf of the city, then I'm going to be in support of it. I contacted the Board of Elections. Because there is going to be primary races, the gubernatorial races, there's definitely going to be an election in as far as a primary. So therefore, our cost will be minimal as far as putting this on the ballot. So it's great timing for us to put something like this on the ballot. So that's why I'm in support of these moving forward at this time. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
That passes 9-0. Next, we have 21-77.
Resolution number 21-77 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, and Mr. Marmy. A resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to negotiate and enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Newark Sports and Events Commission for the construction and management of pickleball courts at the Newark Municipal Ice Rink, subject to the appropriation of funds.
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
take a motion for you to adopt 21-77.
got a motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Barker. Is there any discussion? Do you need to call a roll, please?
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
21-77 passes 9-0. Next on the agenda, we have resolutions of the first reading, 21-78.
Resolution number 21-78 expedite by Mr. Marmy, a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy,
make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule in resolution 21-78.
Second.
got a motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Labutus to waive the 2-day reading rule.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Okay, the 2-day waiting room has been
Make a motion to adopt resolution 21-78.
motion by Mr. Marmy,
Second.
second by Mr. Labutus to adopt 21-78.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
21-78 passes 9-0. Next on the agenda is 21-79.
Resolution number 21-79 by Mr. Rath and Mr. Marmy, a resolution authorizing the Director of Public Service to execute a contract for reimbursement of legal representation of indigent persons for calendar year 2022 with the Licking County Board of Commissioners for the City of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
make a motion to adopt 21-79.
Second.
got a motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Marmy to adopt resolution 21-79.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
21-79 passes 9-0. And the last one for the year and tonight is 21-81.
Resolution number 21-81 by Mr. Rath and Mr. Marmy, a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and enter into contract for certain essential supplies for various departments of the City of Newark, Ohio for fiscal year 2022.
That would be held until second, second reading. January 3rd. Well, that completes our legislation for the year and for tonight. Now we have an opportunity for citizen comments. Raise your hand and come on up to the podium and give us your name and address.
Linda Mossholder, 224 Green Meadow Drive, New York. What I would like to do is inform that the council that the position that Councilman Blake had talked about for behavioral health partners, the outreach coordinator, has been filled. And what I would like to offer council is when this person is established in the job, that he would be able to come and give a brief presentation on what this position would do. It will be a position that will work with people who are currently unsheltered. It will be working with landlords, it'll be working with law order, but maybe give you an overview on what the position would do. At the homeless outreach, we meet from 12 to 2 every Saturday. We are seeing over 100 people every Saturday. Granted, not all of those people are unsheltered, but having 100 people come through in order to get food, clothing, and socks does indicate that we do have some issues in the city, and I hope we will be able to, with the new council members, be able to address those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Smith, 237 Vital Court. First of all, I'd like to add my thanks to Dee and Jeremy and Sean for their service. They appreciate their fine work. I also like to comment that at other times the council has made the point of wanting to have solutions to problems. And we have a number of things that have been brought up, and Mrs. Mossholder and Michelle have brought up some solutions that are possible. And in terms of the fentanyl strips, the example that Michelle gave was in Virginia, which has decriminalized the use of fentanyl strips, which is unfortunately not the case in Ohio. But I think that this is an opportunity when we have a clear example of how this process saves lives in our community, that we should be contacting our representatives, Jay Hottinger and Mark Frazier, asking them to forward this legislation to repeal the outlaw the distribution of fentanyl strips. This is something that is supported by many federal government anti-drug agencies and health agencies. And I think it's the compassionate thing to do. It saves lives. I think it's just the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Gary Babcock, 67 Philmont Avenue. Dee, thank you. Thank you very much. We had a lot of prayers going up for you during your illness. Please leave your telephone line open. Younger people may need you. Jeremy Blake, thank you for all that you've done for council. And I really, really in my heart, I know you're going to continue your mission throughout, missions that you started, and a lot of them you've completed, and a lot of them aren't quite done yet. So please stay right in there, and please run again. Rest of council, thank you. More times than not, you're probably more overworked and underpaid than anyone in the city of Newark. Son, thank you. We haven't had personal contact. Over here, Bill Cobb, stay active in the city, Bill. Appreciate what you have done and continue it on. And that's all I got to say about that. Mama said.
Anybody else for citizen comments? Okay. Anybody from the administration like to say anything tonight? Okay. Walgrave.
I'd like to thank Dee Hall, Jeremy Blake, Sean Brown for their service to the city. The short time I've been here, it's been a pleasure working with all of you, and thank you for your service.
Mr. Fennell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to start out just by saying really what an incredible ride and honor this has been, serving the city of Newark. Well, I said it when I was first elected, and I still say to this day that it is probably one of the greatest honors that I will ever receive. Is the faith that people who voted for me, my constituents, put in me, and the work that they allowed me to do here on council. And I wish the rest, I wish the best and the rest of council here in all of the challenges and the opportunities that are going to be put forward. We made a lot of difference. We made a lot of progress, but there's always work to be done in this city. To the members, the audience who keep calling and speaking, please come. Please continue speaking. Your voice is important. I would also be in big trouble if I did not thank my mom and my family. You know, I will admit, serving on city council can be very challenging. There are difficult times, and my family, they're the ones who kept me going. So thank you for all of your support. Specifically, I just want to call out Jeremy Blake. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you and your leadership. I'll never forget standing right back out there that one night watching as this council voted in equality. And I appreciate that. That's what let me know that I could do what I did. So thank you. Dee, Bill, thank you for everything. It was wonderful working with you. To the rest of council as well. There are so many members here that have just been incredible to work with. Some of you I count as friends. And I do wish you the best as you continue to serve this city. I was on the fence about whether or not to say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because why not? It's my last time. I will say that on a council that is one party, that it is important to continue to speak up and to bring in as many ideas and as many perspectives as possible. And I just encourage everybody to be true to that. I think we've seen that on this council. I haven't always agreed with my party on certain things, and those votes came out. So please continue to do that. When you see things, bring in the perspectives. It is really important, especially to remember to do that when you don't have these kind of built-in checks and balances. And I just really hope that everybody will take that to heart and know that it's not coming from a place of partisanship, because I firmly believe that in local government, we don't have to be partisan. Most of the things you see us voting yes on a lot of things because we agree on most of the things that are coming. But on those things that do require a little bit more of that introspection, I ask that you continue to bring that forward. With that,
Thank you. Ms. Hall.
I agree with what you just said. It's challenging. I cannot believe that 8 years is like Zoom here. You learn a lot every single week. There's something new. You have to go with your heart. And that's been a challenge from time to time. No, we don't always agree. You just have to talk to people and get that support. The administration, their door is open. I would suggest to new people that you go knock on their doors and get to know the safety department and our officers, our firefighters, the police chief, who is not really new. I mean, he's been around for a while, but get to know these folks, because when things come up, you've got questions and their door is always open. That's with the mayor as well. But it's been a great 8 years. It's been an honor to serve with you. I appreciate your support and the conversations we've had along the way and butting heads along the way. But continue to do what you've been doing. There's going to be new challenges, and I hope to continue to work with the city somehow. I've enjoyed my board as well as the entire city. You get all kinds of questions, and you got to have somebody to rely on and say, hey, I don't know about this. So it's been great. I thank you very much. And I wish you all a happy and Merry Christmas with that.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I need to call a personnel committee meeting for January 3rd. Beyond that, I just want to thank our police department and property maintenance. They've helped me with a couple of issues in the fourth ward and done a fantastic job with that. Also, I would like to thank Dee and Jeremy and Sean for your service to the city on the council. It's been an honor to serve with each of you. I've just enjoyed our discussions those past 4 years and hope those continue beyond this time on council. And I wish you all the best. So thank you for your service. And finally, last but not least, Merry Christmas to everyone. Make sure you focus on the folks that are around you, the presents under the tree. If you have kids, you know that you get the first present 20 minutes later, that they got it. So just make sure you focus on family and those around you first.
Thank you, Mr. Lane.
It's good to be back. Was out with COVID during the last meeting, which was odd to watch the meeting online while it was going on and not be able to be here. COVID's no fun. If you haven't had it, you don't want it, get that booster. Avoid it. Dee, it's great to see you back here. I'm glad we were able to fit in one last meeting before you leave. It's been a pleasure, true pleasure serving with you. Your independence is admirable, and I really enjoyed watching you and working with you the last 4 years. So thank you for all you've done. Jeremy, I know we've not agreed on a lot, disagreed on quite a bit, but I respect you for your passion and all you brought to council over the last 8 years. So thank you. And Sean, it's been a pleasure working with you as well. We haven't always agreed either, but we've done it respectfully, and I've really admired that. So thank you for your service as well. And with that, I'd just like to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and with that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to thank Dee and Jeremy and Sean also. It's been a real pleasure working with all three of you. And I want to thank you for your service. And I mean, anybody who sits up in these chairs, you put yourself out there. And it's very much appreciated what you've done. And not only for what you've done for the citizens of Newark, but what you've done for me personally. I learned from every single one of you, okay? And it's always nice to learn vicariously instead of the school of hard knocks. But no, I do appreciate all three of you. And I did learn a lot. And not only, anytime that you let somebody into your life that is, even the slightest bit different than you are, then diversity gets into your life. And I really appreciate that from the three of you. Everybody on this council is different and unique. And I think that we all learn from each other, and I definitely learned from the three of you. And thank you very much. I'm sure that we have not seen the end of any of the three of you. You're just the type of individuals that will still be here to help. And so I do thank you for that. And I too want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And with that, I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Mr. Rath.
Thank you. I'll start out with calling a service committee meeting for January 3rd.
I do not.
I
First one.
I remember as soon as I said that, I stopped myself. Well, congratulations, Mr. Harris, for running the meeting.
Thank you.
Nobody died? It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Did a decent job. Nice job.
Thank you.
Nice job. Wanted to thank Dave Rhodes and Barbara Giltz. I don't remember if I did those 2 weeks ago or not, but it's I've been asking it for this for 4 years. So just in case I did forget last time, I'm gonna say it again. Thank you to Dave Rhodes and Barbara Giltz. We've got a phenomenal looking brand spanking new dog park on Reddington Road at Reddington Park. It's awesome. And it's very nicely constructed. It is going to be widely used, I believe, as soon as the gates come in. Unfortunately, we're doing supply chain issues with the gates. They are not there yet, but if you get a chance, if you're in the neighborhood of Cherry Valley Road, Reddington, stop by, see the dog park. If you bring your dog, make sure you clean up after it. We all appreciate that. Wanted to say thank you to Dee and Sean and Jeremy. Kudos to you guys. Everybody has said a lot. I agree with everything that everybody else said. It's been a pleasure serving with you guys. Certainly have learned from you. and appreciate you guys being here. And say guys. Metaphorically, I mean, me too. Not trying to exclude you. And I know Sean mentioned about all being one party, and that's true. We all are one party, but we are most definitely 10 very unique personalities that are going to be up here. And there's been causes that I've championed that haven't been supported strictly by my party, and they've been supported by Democrats. And there's been several issues of that that's happened. So I think that the unique personalities is going to come into play. Hopefully we get some different ideas. Hopefully I'm sure we'll get along just fine, but we're not always going to agree, and that's okay. That's what we're here for. That's absolutely okay. Got all kinds of notes. I think that's about all. I'll end it with Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that.
Thank you, Mr. Rapp. Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just would first off, want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday, Happy New Year. It's always a great time of year, but there is always, there was earlier brought up for warming shelters, and I know there are churches and the warming task force that will be working on that. And so thank you to all those volunteers who do that, as well as our safety forces on that. I want to thank Director Rhodes. I made Councilman Rapp aware. Earlier, there was a commercial user of power over in the 3rd Ward that was getting quite a few power surges, and we got with AEP to figure out why that was happening for them. So I appreciate that. And they appreciate that as well. I also would want to send condolences to Sherry Hodinger's family as with the passing of her mother. And so condolences to their family. It's always hard to lose a parent, I know that, but even at the holidays, it's even worse. So condolences there for their family. Dee, Jeremy, Sean, my first 2 years on council, it's been fantastic working with all of you. I remember specifically, Jeremy, we knew each other through Young Leaders of Licking County. And at my first meeting, you asked if we could go get coffee, and we did, and we got to know each other better. And I would echo Mr. Marmy's comments on we are a diverse group, and that makes us all better. Sad to see you go. Hope the best for all 3 of you. I'm sure we will hopefully see you here during citizens' comments, and the phone is always open. And with that, I will pass.
Thank you. Mr. Blake.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I just first want to thank the people of Newark. I served 5.5 years on the school board and now 8 years in this chamber, and it really has been an honor. I mean, each one of us, regardless of party affiliation, and I do agree, Sean, that hopefully at some point in the future, the people of Newark will be able to vote on a charter amendment to remove partisanship from our city government. I think that's something that should be considered, should be voted upon by the people. But serving the people is truly an honor. I mean, that's our way of government. That's the way in which we serve. People putting themselves out there to get involved in local government. We need good people, goodwill. In challenging times, we need people that want to step up regardless of your background. I mean, we have insurance agents, we have teachers, we have artists. We have a variety of backgrounds that sit up on this dais, but we need people that will run for office and to get involved in local government, especially at these times. But the role of the city council, you're not just a legislator, thinking of legislation. I also view the role as facilitator and convener, working with various different groups throughout our community and trying to find discussions, to find solutions. And I think some of my supporters that came tonight in my last meeting, and appreciate them, but they represent so much more because we're trying to do things for people. And that's really what I try to do all of my service for, is trying to better things for people. Let's just move that needle just a little further for people can have a little something better, a little better quality of life. And I just really enjoyed my time, both on the school board and here in this chamber. And so I thank you.
the people of Newark. I appreciate all the time that had the opportunity to serve, and it's really been an honor. So thank you. Like Sean, I can't let my last comments go without thanking my mother. Mom's played a big role in your life, she plays a big role in mine, and always the biggest cheerleader and always the biggest supporter. So she's here. Many of you know her. Many of you probably like her better than you like me. So, but I know David Rose always does when he sends me those goofy pictures. But that's what it is. So I appreciate you always being there for me. And we're going to start a new chapter 2022, but I love you and I thank you so much. So, but thank you all. I appreciate the time that we've had together, and just remember the people, and as you continue moving forward, that good things are to come. Government service is always going to continue on. There's always more to do. Nothing ever ends. This is work that you really have to be passionate about, and I know each of you are, and will continue to do things for the people in Newark. So with that, I'll yield. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for their patience tonight with me running the meeting, and hopefully we didn't do too bad. Mr. Rhodes, what's the Browns score?
14-13.
Browns?
Right here.
All right.
About a minute and a half left, so take your time.
Okay. I'm a big Browns fan, so I've been worried about the game, trying to run the meeting, and this has been. I want to remind everybody, I think I passed out a flyer to all the council people, and then anybody else wants one, the Martin Luther King breakfast is going to be on January 17th, 7 o'clock at the Reese Center. So hopefully you guys can make that. I also want to, I meant to do this last meeting. I want to thank all of our students that's been coming in doing the pledge. They seem to really enjoy it, and I think all of them have done a really good job. And so I want to thank all the schools for participating in that this year. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And want to continue to pray for Sherry and her family. Christmas was her mom's favorite holiday. And so she'll have a first Christmas without her mom. So I want to pray for them. The next meeting will be January 3rd. And do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion, Mr. Labutus, Mr. Lang, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say.